Hi, my name is Jessica Bennett. I'm doing my reform presentation on life after exoneration. All of the references can be found at the end of chapter 15 in our textbook. I can't help but feel that it's common sense to give as much support to a victim of wrongful conviction as provided to the person who served their time. And make no mistake, the exonerees are victims. They develop mental health issues, personality disorders, and face such trauma that 16 of 18 met the criteria for PTSD in Ground's 2004 analysis, besides the mood and anxiety disorders. Financial compensation varies between states, but some, like Florida, refuse any if the person has prior convictions. Two people spent 27 years in prison, as reported by the Innocence Project in 2010, and were issued $10 checks and left prison with a garbage bag full of legal documents. Only 60% of exonerees receive any assistance, and most have to wait up to 3 years before receiving funds, unless they were in any one of the 27 states that provide no compensation. In stark contrast, actual offenders receive services such as job placement or training, drug rehabilitation, and temporary housing. The biggest gap, though, is in the workforce. An innocent person incarcerated has a massive gap in their resume and have missed the opportunity to familiarize with the technology we all consider essential and even mundane. Badkin in 2005, Grounds in 2004, and the Innocence Project in 2009 have all cited victims suffering from anxiety and inexperience associated with technological advancement. Unless the compensation from government is enough that this victim never has to work again, we have lost a lot of time, and we need to help them make up for it. The social stigma and ostracization hinders them immensely as well. The innocent and guilty struggle to reintegrate as much as soldiers returning home and survivors of tragedy. Compound that with the hopelessness and distress of being wrongfully imprisoned, having their liberty stripped away, caged in solitary confinement for years, or on death row, waiting for the day their lives will be taken. This should be seen as equally reprehensible that they receive no mental health care or social services beyond an undetermined dollar amount, and a boilerplate apology from the government who separated them from friends and family, the workforce, and any opportunities to develop skills or further an education while imprisoned, as the financing for those programs are also slashed. As the world becomes more advanced, those lost years weigh even more heavily on a wrongful conviction victim re-entering civilization, having lost not only time but opportunity to develop even basic skills for employment and essentially survival. My reform would focus on these lost opportunities, not only temporary job placement, but education or trade training entirely subsidized by the governing body that stripped them of these opportunities while they were locked away. No amount of money can make up for lost potential or the loss of freedom, but when one opportunity is wasted, we should at the very least supply them with a chance for another. The biggest hindrance to implementation will be cost, as these resources cannot be free. The average taxpayer is not likely going to appreciate paying more for this miscarriage of justice, and it would require the rearrangement of some government coffers. My suggestion would be to find this in the prosecution's budget. It seems appropriate that the restitution come from the agency who imprisoned that person in the first place. As Bell et al. 2008 found, the layperson recognized some factors such as mistaken eyewitnesses and false confession, but didn't know about the behaviors of lawyers or police as contributing factors to the conviction of innocence. Way back in 1957, a Frank and Frank case study cited contributing factors to prosecutorial behavior, approaching cases with a must-win mentality. And the Angus Reid Group back in 1995 found continued public support for government compensation for the wrongfully convicted. Were the duty of restitution on the government, perhaps more consideration would be taken for the state of the underfunded and overstretched public defender's office, seeing as many were indigents provided counsel by the same governing body which prosecuted them, with the Innocence Project alone identifying 245 DNA exonerees on death row. The funding should be available to defense in a perfect world, but this isn't one. The least we can do is insist policymakers make whole the people that they've wronged.